Hello, everyone. I would like to start by introducing myself. My name is Aldisi. I'm a certified clinical dietitian, currently working in the country of Jordan, in my own private clinic, in addition to being Ru'ya's TV exclusive dietitian. Allow me to express my utmost pleasure in partaking in such an honorable event, World Down Syndrome Day, on the hope that all of our efforts take us a step forward into unlocking hidden potentials. Today, we are going to be discussing nutritional supplementation for Down syndrome. Are you with or against? Especially that it's a highly questionable approach. To start with, let us begin with an overall view. As you all know, Down syndrome is actually one of the most common genetic disorders. It is associated with numerous issues regarding physical and mental development. And thus, the introduction of nutritional supplementation in highly doses to the everyday routine of individuals with Down syndrome is one of the most controversial ideas proposed for the improvement of their physical and intellectual life. And thus, in this presentation, we are going to review the newest research and conclusions regarding nutritional supplementations in Down syndrome. Let us take an overall look. How did it all start? It was according to Dr. Henry Turkel that there is an alternative approach to Down syndrome, which believes that nutritional supplements can lead to the substantial development of the child. This idea was based on that the extra chromosome causes features associated with Down syndrome through metabolic imbalances. And thus, assuming that the phenotypic feature and the cognitive ability of individuals with Down syndrome can be affected by a variety of supplements, Dr. Turkel created a special supplement formula for individuals with Down syndrome. It was called the U formula, or the U series. The supplement, unfortunately, was unapproved by the FDA, and it was only sold in the state of Michigan. It was unapproved because the U series could not remove the impact of the extra chromosome. Later on, a modified version of Dr. Turkel's supplement was developed by Dr. Jack Warner, and this was called the High Achievement Potential Capsules, or as abbreviated, the HAP caps. These capsules contained high doses of dietary antioxidants, such as vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin C, in addition to digestive enzymes, minerals, zinc, copper, manganese, and selenium, which all were believed to help with the metabolic disturbances that the people with Down syndrome suffered from. Studies today have a different point of view. Studies today, they highlight that it is not true that individuals with Down syndrome are deficient in certain nutrients. In addition, it confirms that if they consume a well-balanced diet and have no additional medical problem, they probably receive the recommended daily allowance, or the RDA, from any ordinary diet. Also, all supplement taken should be considered as additional to the average intake. And thus, we are talking about an extra of minerals and vitamins in certain cases. Recent studies have also warned of the lack of well-designed scientific studies. Either the population was too small or there was some kind of bias in the methods used. Studies can also confirm that there is no simple solution for implementing supplementation to everyday routine because there are different eating patterns and nutrient needs of the population. And thus, one of the major concerns is the lack of studies on the long-term effect of the nutritional supplementation. Let us take an overall look of the Down syndrome formulas. They generally contain 5 main ingredients, which include vitamins, minerals, amino acids, digestive enzymes, and antioxidants. If we want to start to look at vitamins, many studies have shown that the multivitamin supplementation with either RDA doses or megadoses have no effect on the mental ability or behavior among children with Down syndrome. But other studies performed were actually targeting individual targeted vitamin supplementation. We will refer back to vitamins in details later on, but please keep in mind that studies have fully proven that multivitamin supplementations does not have an effect on the mental ability or behavior. Let us move on to minerals. Several studies have shown that we have 2 minerals we really need to take care of, which include the zinc and selenium. These levels are decreased among children with Down syndrome in addition to adults. Some studies on zinc reported that zinc does help increase in growth. It improves thyroid and lymphocyte function, in addition to having a benefit on increased survival of white blood cells with supplementation. However, these results were mostly unconfirmed. To look at selenium, which is a cofactor in the glutathione peroxidase, which is an enzyme that helps scavenge the oxygen radicals, selenium supplementation may improve certain indicators of immune function, but the supporting research has only been preliminary. There is no information on possible adverse effect of chronic and zinc supplementation, so please keep that in mind. And thus, what do you think? Do you support supplementation? And thus, no other mineral has been found either lacking or helpful in Down syndrome. According to the meta-analysis, it is always preferable that we test for blood levels of zinc and selenium every 3 to 6 months in people with Down syndrome, and thus we can decide if supplementation was needed or not. Keeping in mind that we only supplement when it was necessary and when the levels were below the recommended daily values or the recommended values. And thus, let us please keep in mind that we only supplement when needed according to confirmation in blood tests. To move on to amino acids, a consistent deficiency of serine and excess cysteine and lysine are generally caused by overexpression of certain genes on the 21st chromosome. Some studies confirm that supplemental amino acids balance the blood levels in individuals with Down syndrome, making the biochemical workings of their bodies normal. Amino acid supplementation, unfortunately, could cause an unpleasant odor in the user's urine or sweat. And also, there was another amino acid, which was tryptophan, which the body uses to synthesize serotonin, the happiness hormone. Decreased levels of serotonin, unfortunately, have been found among people with Down syndrome. However, it has not been possible to study serotonin levels in the brain, so it is not known whether the brain serotonin levels are also low. With regards to amino acid supplementations, studies have concluded that if the person is consuming a well-balanced diet with the proper amounts of minerals, vitamins, in addition to protein, high digestible value protein, which we generally take from animal protein, we can make sure that we are receiving all the essential amino acids without the need of supplementation. So this also crosses one more supplement that is usually given to individuals with Down syndrome. Moving on to antioxidants, which is really the new era, which is really where all the studies are being diverted in regards to Down syndrome and nutrition. It has been known for many years that one of the genes overexpressed in Down syndrome is the one producing the superoxide dismutase. Glutathione peroxidase then converts the hydrogen peroxide to water and oxygen. One theory states that if there is more superoxide dismutase without a corresponding increase in the glutathione peroxidase, unfortunately, then more hydrogen peroxide will be available to cause the peroxidative damage to the cells. And thus, experiments with cell cultures and post-mortem tests seem to show that the oxidative damage might cause premature aging, damage leading to sensile dementia of the Alzheimer's type, and the early loss of the brain cells seen in infants with Down syndrome. And thus, the theory claims that antioxidant supplements may prevent and even reverse damage by peroxidation. We will also refer to that in a while. As for the digestive enzyme, which is usually given as supplements to individuals with Down syndrome, there is no proof that people with Down syndrome are deficient in any pancreatic or intestinal enzyme. In fact, most children with Down syndrome have trouble with constipation, whereas people deficient in digestive enzymes tend to have loose stools. And thus, do you recommend supplementation? There does seem to be an increase in celiac disease in Down syndrome, a disorder of malabsorption, but again, enzymes do not help in this condition. So please let us think a bit before we really recommend some kinds of supplementation in the form of digestive enzymes, vitamins, minerals to individuals with the Down syndrome. Omega-3 fatty acid has been a very interesting part. Studies have indicated that premature infants may not be able to synthesize enough of their own. So ultimately, infant formulas for premature babies should actually be fortified with DHA. But because breast milk contains DHA, The World Health Organization and several other organizations have asked the FDA to include it in regular infant formulas in the US. No research indicates that children with Down syndrome lack DHA in the first place, cannot make enough, or can benefit from DHA supplementation. And thus, further studies have shown that the critical period for supplementing DHA, and please keep in mind that it was in preterm infants, it was the first 2 months of life, and little beyond that should be expected of benefit when we are giving omega-3 fatty acid supplementation. Surprisingly, too much omega-3 fatty acids and DHA can actually suppress the immune system, which is already impaired with people in Down syndrome. And thus, let us really look back and decide whether we want to supplement or not. As for choline, it was promoted for increasing myelinization of neurons and for increasing level of neurotransmitter acetylcholine or acetylcholine. Additionally, it was given as a supplement. However, again, there is no evidence that oral choline supplements do either of these things in people with Down syndrome. There are also a lot of side effects of multivitamin supplementation formulas. There is still concern as to infants who are nursing or taking formulas and being given these products, given that they contain too much vitamin A, and they also are heavy protein loaded. Information on side effects is not being collected systematically, unfortunately. And another notable effect has been the loss of appetite in children, related to the fact that these supplements are not usually palatable. In addition, a few children have stopped eating, apparently suspicious that supplement was all their food. In addition, orange skin coloring was also seen in individuals taking vitamin A supplementation until it was decreased. This was a systematic review, in vivo and in vitro, that studied different vitamins and antioxidants and their effect, and actually are they of benefit or not with regards to Down syndrome. We will first take a look at vitamin A, the alpha tocopherol. The studies were actually either on mice or in Petri dishes. As for the results of vitamin A, we had seen improvement of spatial memory, reduction of the neurodegeneration, normalization of the OS markers. In addition, in the female pregnant and their poops, we have seen that we had reduction of levels of lipid peroxidation products, attenuation of cognitive impairment, improvement of the hippocampal hypocellularity. And thus we can see promising results with vitamin E supplementation. But please keep in mind that vitamin E is one of the fat-soluble vitamins, and thus it can be stored in the body and supplementation could lead to toxic levels. And thus, please be careful before we supplement people with Down syndrome. Before we take a step to supplementation, let us first test the levels in the body, and accordingly, we can decide to supplement or not. Moving on to one of the antioxidants, which is the SGS-111, which is a novel analog of the neurotropic paracetam, which prevents oxidative damage and apoptosis in both normal and Down syndrome humans. The results were also promising in that it had the ability to inhibit the accumulation of intracellular free radicals and lipid peroxidation damaged in neurons. As for melatonin, we also had promising results, which resulted in reduction of chlorogenic neurodegeneration, improvement of the hippocampal neurogenesis, in addition to reduction of the synaptic inhibition, etc. On the pregnant models of Down syndrome, we had no effect. And thus, we really need to have a closer look at melatonin and whether it can really be beneficial after birth. As for the 7,8-dihydroxyflavone, which mimics the physiological action of the brain-derived neurotropic factor. In the postnatal treatment, we had some promising results, which included restoration of the hippocampal neurogenesis and dendritic spine development. In the adolescent treatment, improvement was seen in cognition, but unfortunately in the adult treatment, no effect was seen. As for the EGCG and the polyphenols, we also had some promising results, which included the restoration of mitochondrial homeostasis and promotion of proliferation in neuronal progenitors. And also moving on to some natural supplements like the curcumin, and we also had some promising results, which prenatally we have seen an increase in brain weight, cell proliferation, and pro-cognitive long-term effects. As for the glucagon-like peptide 1, we also have seen results which looked promising, which included a reduction of mitochondrial ROS generation, reactive oxygen species, in addition to dendritic spine morphology, alteration and improvement of LTP, and cognitive alteration. Lastly, when we looked at metformin, we also had some promising results, which included reduction of mitochondrial abnormalities, increases in ATP production, oxygen consumption rate, and mitochondrial activity. The reason we have been really concentrating on oxidation and oxidative stress is that in this condition, with Down syndrome, oxidative stress is actually happening at an early event, and it negatively affects the brain development, which is also aggravated in later life, contributing to neurodegeneration, accelerated aging, and the development of Alzheimer's disease. Cognitive dysfunction in Down syndrome is due to deficits in the growth and differentiations of the central nervous system that appear during early prenatal stages. However, later in life, the cognitive alteration in Down syndrome individuals are aggravated because their brain undergoes premature aging and present the early appearance of Alzheimer's disease neuropathology. Brain tissue is also more susceptible to undergoing elevated level of oxidative stress than other tissues, because generally it is rich in fatty acids, which are ideal biomolecules for the peroxidation processes, and because it contains low concentrations of antioxidant enzyme and is also characterized by a high aerobic metabolic rate. In Down syndrome, as in other neurodegenerative diseases, increased oxidative stress is produced by both a high rate of reactive oxygen species, which puts an even bigger question mark on the antioxidant supplementation, and also a low level of antioxidant enzymes and reducing agents. In addition to affecting the integrity of important cellular components, which alter proper neurophysiological processes, oxidative stress also alters multiple pathways implicated in cell growth, gene expression, neurodegeneration, and protein function, which plays an important role in Down syndrome cognitive dysfunction. And thus, for us to conclude, while a few vocal doctors have championed the idea that dietary supplements can help children with Down syndrome, most doctors who take care of these children on a day-to-day basis do not recommend supplementation. The administration of the vitamins-related therapy, examples, the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, hormones, enzyme combination, has not been shown to be of benefit in a controlled trial. That the rationale advanced for these therapies is unproven, and that the previous use of these therapies has not produced any scientifically validated significant results. Moreover, the long-term effects of chronic administration of many of the ingredients in these preparations are unknown. And thus, for us to have a quick check for the vitamins, let us concentrate on vitamin E, as it does show promising results, keeping in mind to test the body levels. Because vitamin E is one of the fat-soluble vitamins that are stored in the body, and high doses can lead to toxicity. As for the minerals, two key minerals we are really interested in, zinc and selenium. We only supplement after having blood tests carried out, and accordingly we can decide if the person is deficient and thus supplementation is needed or not. As for the amino acids, we do not need amino acid supplementation in the case that the person is consuming high biological value protein in the ranges that are suitable for their body. And they are usually 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight of protein up until 1.2 grams per kilogram body weight protein to a normal individual. And thus, we can calculate the needs of the proteins accordingly and decide whether an amino acid supplementation is needed. The enzyme combination has not been helpful in the therapies previously administered to individuals with Down syndrome. And thus, let us really take a closer look before we can supplement. And lastly, for the antioxidants, studies are showing promising results. Unfortunately, no study has yet been confirmed or taken place on individuals. Most of the studies are laboratory-based studies. And thus, we really need to take care before we recommend supplementation. Please keep in mind that a proper balanced diet can provide us with all our needs with regards to vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and most importantly, antioxidants. When we concentrate on food that are rich in fruits, vegetables with a high content of vitamins, in addition to vitamins that really have an antioxidant properties, and don't forget, the more colors you have in your plate, the more colors you have in your face. And thus, let us really concentrate on the quality of the food, in addition to the physical exercise, and let us really have a closer look to the individual before we supplement any kind of vitamin, mineral, amino acid, hormone, enzymes, or even antioxidants. Keeping in mind for antioxidants, there are a lot of sources that can provide us with all the antioxidants needed, including curcumin, ginger, and the internet can provide us a highly detailed reports on foods with high amount of antioxidants. Please do remember that the long-term effects of chronic administration of many of the ingredients in the multivitamin supplementation or the multimineral or the supplementations in general, the side effects of chronic administrations are yet unknown. Despite all of this, however, the use of these supplementations continue to be popular. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. It was my pleasure to be part of it. Have a lovely day ahead. Thank you.